5 years ago, I moved into a small rental house on the edge of town after accepting a new job. The place wasn't anything special. The paint was fading, the wooden floors creaked with every step, and the nearest neighbor lived far enough away that I couldn't even see their porch light at night. The rent was surprisingly cheap. When I asked the landlord why, he hesitated for a second before smiling. "People just don't stay here very long," he said. "I assumed the house had plumbing issues or maybe a rodent problem. I didn't think much of it. The first 3 nights were completely normal. I unpacked my boxes, ordered takeout, watched TV, and fell asleep without a problem. The 4th night was different. I woke up suddenly for no reason. The room was completely silent. I reached for my phone. 2:17 a.m. At that exact moment, knock, knock, knock. 3 slow knocks echoed from the front door. Not loud, not desperate, just 3 calm, deliberate knocks. I sat on the edge of my bed, waiting for another sound. Nothing. After nearly a minute, I convinced myself it had to be someone at the wrong house. I walked toward the front door as quietly as I could and looked through the peephole. The porch was empty. No person, no car, no movement. I turned away, and just as I took my first step back, knock, knock, knock. This time, the sound came from the inside of the house. For a few seconds, I couldn't move. The second set of knocks had come from somewhere behind me, not the front door, inside the house. I turned around slowly, expecting to see that maybe something had fallen against a wall or a window. Nothing. The hallway was empty. Every light was off except the small lamp in my bedroom. I stood there, listening. The silence felt heavier than before. Then I heard it. A single floorboard creaked. Not near me, at the far end of the hallway. The kind of sound old wood makes when someone shifts their weight. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight. The beam stretched across the narrow hallway, revealing dusty walls, framed pictures left behind by the landlord, and the closed bathroom door. Everything looked normal. Too normal. I took a few cautious steps forward. Another creak. This time, closer. My heartbeat was so loud that I could barely hear anything else. I reached the bathroom door and pushed it open. Empty. The window was locked from the inside. I checked every room. The kitchen, the spare bedroom, the laundry room. Nothing. No sign that anyone had been inside. As I walked back toward my bedroom, something caught my attention. The digital clock on the microwave read 2:17 a.m. My phone still read 2:17 a.m. I stared at both screens for several seconds. They weren't moving. It was as if time itself had stopped. Then, without warning, knock, knock, knock. This time, I froze. The 3 knocks came from directly above me. I stared at the ceiling. There wasn't supposed to be anything up there. When I rented the house, the landlord had told me it was a single-story building with no attic. I stepped outside to clear my head. The cold night air helped for a moment. I looked up at the roof. Nothing looked unusual. No broken shingles. No movement. No lights. Just an ordinary house. When I walked back inside, the microwave clock suddenly changed. 2:18 a.m. My phone changed at the exact same time. Whatever had happened, it was over. Or at least that's what I wanted to believe. The next morning, I went to work exhausted. During lunch, I casually asked a coworker if he knew anything about the neighborhood. When I mentioned my address, he stopped eating. "You're renting that place?" he asked. I nodded. He stayed quiet for a few seconds before saying, "My uncle used to deliver mail there. He always said the house looked occupied, even when nobody lived in it." I laughed awkwardly. He didn't. That evening, I bought a small indoor security camera and placed it in the hallway facing the front door. If someone's getting inside, I thought, I'll finally have proof. That night, I left every light on. I checked the camera one last time before going to bed. The hallway was empty. At 2:16 a.m., my phone vibrated. The security camera had detected movement. I opened the live feed immediately. The hallway was still empty. Then, right in front of the camera, 3 fresh knocks echoed through the house. But the motion detector hadn't been triggered by a person. It had been triggered by the bedroom door slowly opening on its own. I didn't move. The bedroom door on the camera had opened by itself. The hallway was still empty. No footsteps. No shadow. Nothing. I looked toward my actual bedroom door. It was wide open. I was sure I'd closed it before going to sleep. Keeping my eyes on the live feed, I slowly walked into the hallway. The camera was mounted on a shelf only a few feet away. Its tiny green light was still blinking. Everything around me looked exactly like it did on the screen. I checked every room again. Nothing. I almost convinced myself the camera had glitched. Then I remembered it had an option to replay the last motion event. My hands were shaking as I opened the recording. The clip started at 2:16 and 54 seconds a.m. The hallway was empty. 5 seconds later, knock, knock, knock. The sound echoed through the recording. The bedroom door slowly swung open. I kept watching, expecting to see someone walk out. Nobody did, but something else happened. For less than a second, a dark shape crossed the camera. It wasn't standing in the hallway. It was much closer, so close that it completely filled the lens before disappearing. I paused the video, rewound it, played it again. The shape wasn't human. It looked more like something had passed directly in front of the camera, without making a single sound. Just then, my phone rang. It was the landlord. The first thing he asked wasn't whether I liked the house. He asked one question. "Did you hear the knocking?" I didn't answer right away. The landlord repeated himself. "Did you hear the knocking?" I finally said, "How do you know about it?" There was a long silence. Then he sighed. I was hoping it wouldn't happen again. Before I could ask what he meant, he told me to leave the house before the next night. No explanation. Just leave. The call ended. I packed a small bag that afternoon and decided I would stay one last night. Mostly because I wanted proof that I wasn't imagining any of this. Before going to bed, I placed my phone on the kitchen counter with the camera recording the hallway. Every light in the house stayed on. At exactly 2:17 a.m., knock, knock, knock. This time, the sound didn't come from the front door. It came from every direction at once. The walls, the ceiling, the floor. 3 slow knocks, perfectly synchronized. The lights flickered once. Then everything became completely silent. My phone vibrated. The recording had stopped by itself. I picked it up and played the last video. The hallway looked empty. Then, during the final 2 seconds, something caught my attention. A person walked past the camera. Not a shadow. Not a ghost. A man. He was wearing old work clothes and carrying what looked like a toolbox. He never looked toward the camera. He simply walked to the front door, opened it, and stepped outside. The recording ended. I ran outside immediately. The street was empty. No footprints. No cars. Nothing. I moved out the next morning. A week later, I met the landlord to return the keys. I asked him who the man in the video was. His face turned pale. He quietly told me that decades ago, before the house was renovated, a maintenance worker had gone missing while repairing the attic. His body was never found. The strange part wasn't the story. It was what came next. He looked at my phone and asked, "What video?" I unlocked it. The recording was gone. Every file from that night had been deleted. I never heard the knocking again. But even now, whenever I wake up in the middle of the night, I never check the time. Because a part of me is afraid it will say 2:17 a.m.